and some things in this action as well, as we're going to get to a nice little build-up here between Zayt, and I'm not sure who is on the other side, but this is an opportunity to get those first 4 points, get those jitters out the way, as we mentioned, and Zayt does have a good one on Nate here, already getting down to the heels here. He has the opportunity to close this out. It's going to be a big opportunity here for Zayt to get going, and I like the aggression right now, knowing that he has him on the ropes, and there it is, the first points of the invitation for Zayt right then and there, Sundown.
In his very first game, so yes, still
Listen,
the
man.
absolute best. Can pick Fortnite up and still be the best. As we hop on board over here with Bertha with 1 big shot, 2 big shots, and lives with just 6 HP and taking out Straw Wet Charlie.
Around the 250, so it'll be interesting to see how the east side of North America goes out here, with Genesis already getting a big dink right there. He's in trouble, he's going to have to retreat down to the building, already getting contested with another big hit. And Genesis, Nino gets the job done and eliminating Genesis.
We're kind of joking around with Bala, like, you won't ever see 2 EU pros box up in front of each other, square off, and then make a disengage. Already in that situation, Punisher and Zayt recognize, if we get stuck in this early fight,
no matter what's Sundown, you'll be happy if, you know, one of your favorites ends up winning.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the benefit of solos too, is even if you don't necessarily have somebody you go in rooting for, at least for me, I find somebody on the day who I'm like, hey, this player is like really impressing me. They're a lot of fun to watch. At the World Cup, King was that player for a lot of people. But then if anybody like ever got a particular chance, go back and watch the final game with what Crew ended up doing. He went from 66 to 6, I believe, all in one game. Just propelled himself forward with the 70 elim victory route, and it was just brilliant. As 828 Suscript, it takes it down, Lakira.
It's the opportunity for that third party, and the third party's here on script, and now he's on the defense, trying to protect himself, but it doesn't matter. Mammy gets right into the box with the spray down with that AR, and Sundown, you called it. That is a signal for the some lurkers running around. Captain Shark is making his way to the high ground, and Issue, and this is that opportunity with Captain Shark using that Midas drum gun. The burr effect is full effect here, Sundown, and easily getting into that box and picking up that elim, as you said.
You don't really, typically you'll see people, if they have it uncontested, they'll hang around and they'll start doing this circular loop path, but instead opting, and he was in zone too, so could have stayed, but instead opting to rotate over, as we see Outcast just destroying Alberta. And right now, you're following the trail of the most important mythic weapons. We know where the drum gun is, we know where Sky's loadout is, and we've been able to see how they've moved around the map so far. And sometimes the only way you make it there is by playing very risk-averse. Like, even in this situation, Collazo recognizing, yes, he could shoot this player in front of him. What are the odds that he's able to eliminate this player before he can react, and nobody else in the lobby does anything? Well, we're about to find out. Let's go, Collazo, roll the dice. He rolls them, they come up, no problem, 7 every time. That's 3 head taps for 66 apiece. Collazo will pick up all of that loot and be able to build themselves a nice little base on that supply cache.
This expands so many mats because you have to account for the floor build as well. Outcast does the high ground, gets a couple of big hits here. He's going to go ahead and fly right in. I'm expecting a big Bob Books box bully play, and he does get inside, and he does get some white hits here, and he's going to try to get right back up with the grappler, and the rush down continues here for Outcast, getting some big boy plays right now, doing his best to get inside the box, and he has so free reign because there's no one out here, Sundown, trying to get this third party on, so Outcast could get another elim here easily for him.
And there it is, right as you say, able to pick it up and close it out, but you have people coming in because the second you hear the grappler, everyone gets interested. Spicy's up on the high ground. Toe Rub's right around the corner as well. Rip Luke, who has kind of been hawking just around the backside of these fights, opting to take whatever shots he can in case Storm Surge, particularly, like, we've already seen a number of players hit so many times and tagged out. If you're able to eliminate one of those and get one advantage in a trade and set up one play for a slot, it's worth it. Also, we know how good Zexor is. He could straight just be trying to meme this round and be like, I want to do something late game with a cardboard box, and I have no problem pushing them. He's one of the historical, literal best players in the game, has some of the best highlight reel clutch clips, like has just gone around and played both on NA and EU.
Gonna do his best right here, and I like it, man. The box play is such a good one, especially if he gets himself in a really sticky situation, as Zayt going back in here, trying to work on Doxy, and he gets a really nice tag here, and he's going to try to go for the retake, and this is the opportunity. It all comes down to fundamentals when it comes to box fighting. You try to get it in there, uses Harpoon, going to come from Believe, and he almost ate the HP, but he gets the job done with 13 HP, and he's rolling right now with Mr. Consistency.
In control of that drum gun, which as the circle gets tighter and tighter, and you have less of a need for that first shot accuracy, and you're just able to kind of start spraying bullets towards people, that's what the drum gun does best. And right now, Lord NM going down there as he gets chosen from multiple sides, and Rogue Shark being the benefactor.
Big benefactor right there, and we're still taking a look at it. There is the water. You could still sort of build on the edges of this water, but this still...
But pretty much everyone has already squeezed into the edge of the zone. Look in the bottom right-hand corner. You can see what the Storm Surge special is, and also how many players need to make their way in as class does get picked up there by Spark. I mean, pretty much everyone's going to be able to squeeze right on the edge of the zone. Let's take a look at who's in the lobby. You got Nate Hill, Weigel, Rigid.
But I'm expecting Shark to kind of, we kind of see this from Kanata as well in his solo runs, where he kind of looks around for just abandoned loot and does his best, and he catches someone with the window open, and there goes White Rhino as Shark gets a big thing and fiends on that loot right there, Sundown.
Yeah, so that's huge. Rogue Shark picking up. Now he has the cash of the 2 supplies from 2 players. Also, Fact is the World Cup qualified player coming out of Canada who dropped over there, has been one of the most consistent solo players, but going down before the second threshold, as we now see Every getting the +2. Storm Surge ticking off as we have our top 50 players just inside Circle 5. So now we're transitioning kind of into that late game full on, and some very familiar names up in that left-hand corner as well on board with Booga. Spicy also picking up an Elim. Booga getting one on to Zeno, who will go down, and Booga continuing to try and take some picks towards the Storm. Knows this player is healing up. Wants to try and pick an elimination here, but you can see him being patient. Trying to use the first shot accuracy, but almost gets run past there. Gets a nice ramp inside, but has to be careful.
That was a very scary situation, Sundown, as he was getting caught tunneling in on that player in the Storm. And now Booga's going to take this opportunity to use the big pots, because later on he will not be able to. And the first rotating circle goes out. It is zone circle 6 here, and it's going to pull all the way back down. I think that's going to go north, actually. So let's see how the rest of the lobby deals with it. But the water is almost not a factor here, Sundown, because all the competitors essentially build a nice, like their own little terrain there. So actually this is going to go more south here at Lazy Lake, and it's going to get into where we saw this earlier in the broadcast, and I believe during the qualifier, Sundown, I think you were casting where he goes towards the bridge. I think that was a kind of insane finish, so hopefully maybe we get that repeat here as we're on board here with Wanban.
43 players remaining. Again, remember, it's the every 10 players, boom, everyone gets a point. You'll see that now as Spicy goes down. Spark picking up another one as Ronbon is continuing to just rotate around the outside. Hits an 80 tag and trying to push forward. Finds another one. Code use. Nah, I'm okay. I'll use somebody else's since you're going down there. And another big pickup from Ronbon under VQ Painful. Also going to dip back into the Storm. Get a little bit of a refresher. Only at the cost of about 30 health. So if he needs to survive by 1 AR shot, that'll be the difference. However, his rotation's going fine as we see Zexro's at the front of it. Zate is there as well. We also have FaZe Tilt on the front of it. Macwood in the lobby. This is a who's who of classic NA East veterans as Tilt pushes through the box, phases in, not quite finding anyone there. As we swap over to Zexro, who is still sitting on that box.
Sitting in box, and I have a big play. It will be a factor, Sundown. It has to be. And no one will hold on to this box as long as possible, knowing that they're not going to use it. I mean, the opportunities to pick up so many different things, no doubt who will drop it for a Grappler, but I mean, the play styles, and that's what I like about solos, it's your own play style that you could kind of work your way around. I mean, duos and trios, you kind of have to find that synergy, but Zexro opting to keep the cardboard box, and I'm accepting a big play from it in the future, but now he does trying to go for some kind of a layer control here near height. And now he's just sitting here with some nice hard matcher with metal. Still only has about 40 builds. There's one person, and they're raining down terror with that rocket launcher, Sundown.
Yeah, and we also almost have our top 15. We have it now as Zexro and Tilt both pick up Elam's. Canada goes down but hits the top 15. Zayt got picked up by Jamper outside the top 20, so that's actually kind of a rough game for Zayt not to finish it out. But look at the zone. You talked about the bridge zone. Look at the disparity in the verticality. Zexro all the way up top, but we know there's so many players down at the bottom, including NITTLE and Rogue Shark, as Nico, I Will Not Lose, actually picks up NITTLE, and we close in on the top 10. After that, every single placement is more and more points, and you want to get into that top 5 if you're playing ideally. Well, I mean, ideally you want to win. As we see, Nico, Macwood, Jamper on bottom, mid tarp, Dowboys, Stony, Aleu, Rogue Shark, Pulse Fishy, and then Zexro looking down on all of them. It's King Zexro's lobby to win.
It's a scary sight to see how high you go. I hope anyone out there at home doesn't have vertigo, because look at down below. It's afraid of heights as there's a pad. I'm sorry I had to bring it up, dude. I'm kind of getting the pit of my stomach is bringing it up right here as Zexro is sitting on top of it. He gets a quick flick right there with a big pump. Oh my goodness, but he has to give it up there, and he's trying to take the short pad, but there's a little ramp in the way. I think he got scared off the height there, Sundown. It kind of came out of nowhere.
Interesting decision, but I think he realized he didn't have enough to safely waterfall down, so had to find a way. And we all know Zexro, rather than like to play in the back, he likes to push into zone and just go for broke. Colazo and Ronbon go down. Does not have a launch pad, needs to find his way back into zone. Nice, tight little building around the corner, making sure he's not quite 90ing back and forth, so using the tight angles. 120, Zexro holding forward with a pump. Name a more iconic duo, but Alige El Nino says no mas para ti, senor. All done today, and he's trying to close it out from the low ground. One player above him is Dowboys with the rocket launcher, but he eats some fall damage and eats his own rocket, and Nino says thank you very much, I will steal that game away. 5 eliminations and the victory royale push. The format again today is 10 matches, or as we hop right on into it, Lyrison taking it down Stowe and then following up right away onto Spark. Nice little double all the way over on the corner of the map, so wouldn't expect 3 people to be alphaing up on this single house, but generally it's relatively safe loot with a decent number of high volume chests on the broken house on the cliff with one right next to it. So
both of them are using some nice defensive plays, preventing anyone putting any kind of ramp or cone in their box. But that little moment of breath was all Seam needed to get into Stretch's box and get the elimination right there. And you know, that's one of the things that as a box fighter, you always have to be sure to have, you know, your edits and everything like that. But the rocket launcher is just destroying builds, so no edits needed there for Kamui. Kamui going in hot right now with that rocket launcher, trying to see if he can sneak in there. But I mean, no matter what, and no matter what level there you make Sundown, it's like you make some kind of mistakes, and you know you got to get your head right. We've all been there. You know, you all know that at least you got 10 games, and sometimes game management could be a big factor. And speaking of big factors, it's Macwood going against Assault. 2 titans of the Fortnite comp going head toe-to-toe here out on the island as Macwood gets a nice little drop hit right there, but he only has 100 HP, no shield in his inventory. So he's going to do his best to get inside and look for that key dink as much as possible, get that green light before he goes into a box take technique. 31, still on those shields for Macwood, still now down to 62 HP. Sundown, what is Macwood going? Never mind! Man, it just looked like Assault was not 100% sure what happened there, and Macwood was able to sneaky that nice wall take.
The fish along this path as possible, which is why this area gets so contested. But check the bottom right hand corner, he needs to be careful. The bait comes out right away, and that's what happens when you get caught on the outside without a harpoon. You're so incredibly vulnerable, and sitting out of the side, I can hit anything I want, and we're set. But nope, take it apart. Ooh, yeah. Rogue Shark picks up his lucky too, and right away over at the agency.
Yeah, and we kind of saw Shark with the drum gun.
You have Uzi and Nosh going 1v1 over here on the side, and you can see Nosh is hurt. Boga's new duo partner getting abused right here as Uzi, very strong, very calculated early game player, again somebody who's been around and particularly performs well. Scope trying to get on the backside. You know he's not going to be leaving the grotto anytime soon. He was born here. Uzi has to go aggressive. He will take out, otherwise doesn't have time for that. It's 10 seconds. You have to play aggressive. Scope knows that. Scope's just going to dip, not opting to take the tough fight and making the right decision. Uzi goes down.
That's the tough, man. Even though it's a low-tick storm, it's just enough to just get Uzi out. It was one of the, I tweeted out, who do you think is going to walk away in the solos, and Uzi was one of the favorites. As we're on board here with Anonymous 72. I wonder who this could be, Sundown. I wonder.
Oh, I don't know. It looks like somebody playing in anonymous mode, man.
I know, with the number 72. I mean, we already had Mitro snake his way in and be a pre-fire, not preferred, pre-fire kid, so a lot, but I think it's going to be some good things here for 72 hours. Well, excuse me, Anonymous 72.
Yeah, man, as we get another angle, we can see Polarized, Canada, SC Cups and Precisions all hanging around. Zypha of Sentinels being picked off right there as Precisions. Nice little timely push. Unfortunately, Zypha not covering all four sides. Always have to make sure you're boxed up on the angles. These players are good enough to hit those headshots. 0 people have gone down, which means Storm Surge, that threshold that will kind of punish too passive a play in order to kind of keep people moving and keep the game on its course, will kick in effect before Circle 5, and 10 players will need to drop. That threshold is 50, but right now this player being pressured and chosen in a quick little flank. It's casual by its casual.
It's interesting to point out as well, for those people at home, sitting with some decent builds, but does have that high valuable launch pad. As we see, the circle is going to put outside of Salty Springs, so this is an opportunity to get some tags, and Shark goes down, and I think Bully don't care. Well, it's going to be very happy to see Midas's drum gun. He's going to do his best to kind of get it, and there it is. Bully don't care, no doubt. Is going to have a bully of a time there with Midas's drum gun there, Sundown.
And I'm sure he did care about that one. Bully
Yes.
being an incredibly strong controller player, super aggressive here, so that drum gun going to be that much more efficient with him. He's going to make the push to try and get in here and try and close the gap now, because you can see just how many players are around here. But again, immediately going to work. He knows he can be aggro here. And the one thing I want to cover right away about competitive Fortnite, if you get an elimination and you go over, notice how these players, they cover the loot drop right away and they overbuild. They extend because they know that player will generally have enough mats, and they know if they're going in, somebody else is going to be looking at them. So very good job from Bully, making sure he covers himself up.
Precision, we saw him earlier in the cast putting down some precision strikes onto the server, and that he's doing right there with a big 2-hit right there, and gets casual. Now he's going to keep going again with a 66 dink, gets a 33. Now he has the green light to keep up the pressure. Has to be careful though. There, that's a nice little build right there to protect himself as he's now tunneling in, looking for the elim that he earned. Maybe the Storm gets off this elimination. There it is, Sundown. A nice 2-piece right there. And Precision is actually doing very well, setting himself up for a nice run here for the rest of the way. And he does have that 50-50, that half in, half out. And you mentioned it right there. He's going to extend out a little bit, and now he has the opportunity to play some different angles as 72 sitting on top right here. But now we're on board with Kamui. Usually when you have that much, you're well and half the way at least from qualifying for the top 300. And Sundown points out as everyone rotated in, and Kamui gets another one right there now with 30, and out goes Snake. And taking a look right now at Kamui, he has himself at the low ground, but right now, no doubt feeling himself, and we do see Box right in front and center of the screen, another competitor from our open qualifier. And Box himself is having a great run with 32 points here, Sundown.
32 points, already sitting on 1 elim this game as well, and in a pretty good position. You can see that white circle represents where the zone will go to, and when you're in the later game competitives, it moves out, forcing the lobby to move around, making it a little less about just where the circle goes to and a little more about how well you can use your resources to get from point A to point B. And Box is in a fantastic position to wait, take shots, and then rotate, because this will pretty much be the last opportunity to use the launch pad he has. So this is where he's going to get aggressive, as we see Hornet taking out L Damien S. So tons of old names coming back, names we haven't seen in a hot minute in the Fortnite. And I lied, there's a Storm Surge threshold popping up right now as 4 players need to go down.
And Box finished actually first place in day 1 in the NA East Open with 310 points, had 3 victory royales, proving that if you qualify, you get yourself into these lobbies, you could show out and make a name for yourself here at the FNCS Invitational, as he's doing his best here to kind of pick out this person sitting here at the layer that he's feeling very comfortable with. And more of aggression coming out from Box. Continuing on, knowing that day 1 he can show out, and he gets Precision out of the server. Sundown, it's amazing to see these qualifying players actually showing out today.
Yeah, and that was actually really strong by Box. What he was doing that was impressive there is using the epic tack and how much pressure it puts onto walls in order to get quick replaces. You can see he's constantly hitting those and then trying to get a combination of something else in. He's able to get the cone in that box, but he wants to be on every wall and is looking to shoot right after he gets it. He's not looking to reset and then go back in. He wants to get forward and wants to take the shots, as we now have our top 25. Again, those thresholds get that much more valuable when you're higher up, as Box hits 2 great 36 tags directly in front of him. And what he's going to do is camp the backside of the storm and continue looking to find people who are rotating late. He wants to find the flopper players in the storm because he knows they're there, but the cost of that is exposing himself to the rest of the lobby, as he's now down to 77 health. But he wants an Elam. Heavy snipes through the wall and he finds it. Spin gets spun around, taken down, and ripped around as Berserker gets berserked out, and a nice little cache of supplies over there. Box making some plays and he finds another one. Controller Av being taken down, only 17 HP to his name, make it 7, but can he find one more? Still trying to go forward, gets a tag from the AR. You don't have time, cannot dip out. 1 second of immunity is all you get, and Ved on Legacy will pick that one up, as it is really just a party on the low ground. The high ground is only like 2 surfaces up.
It's insane, man. It's all coming down. Box was vibing. He tried to survive, but it's DEROLLER here. We're on board with him with 43 points. Polarized gets an elimination on Kamui. Kamui's run is over for this server, but you said it yourself. It's like the low ground is just so much traffic, and the high ground, I think they're all kind of doing it. I think that's Canada right there. So vibing, doing his thing that he does best. Looking at the high ground, Sundown, it looks like a battle between Hornets. Hornets doing his best with 48 elims here, trying to get the retake. Doesn't have a lot of utility and not that many builds to stay in this fight. I'm expecting him to drop down into old builds. As you see, there is that drop down. So now Hornet has very strong impact weapons. He has to make sure that he is very efficient with his builds here, considering he's run all out. There's no need for efficiency if you're at 0.
I was about to say, yes, he will be very efficient. In fact, 100% efficient. He will miss and place every build perfectly, but he misses the one shot he needs to hit as Polarized picks out Ved. DEROLLER gets Hornet and then repositions around the outside. Only 11 builds to his name. Pretty sure it's still Canada up on the high ground. Not sure who is in between, as DEROLLER works the low ground. 55 points from him so far, 3 elims. But he wants to get that first place here. Needs to be careful. Still only 7 builds. We know there's a player on the other side. That's Canada making the flopper play. Polarized, though, is getting a free high ground, and he has the health advantage. DEROLLER is on 90. Canada has already committed to his flopper play, whereas Polarized is completely uncontested. This is going to come down to a full circle close, only 12 seconds left. And as I say that, I lied. Canada goes up with the grappler, picks up Polarized. Canada needs to make a play, though. He has to go unless he has more floppers. No more floppers there. DEROLLER runs out into the storm, knowing Canada's low, and he finds it. Great flag from DEROLLER to punish Canada.
Games in just a moment. We'll first take a look at the standings and see how things are going for players. In first place, we've got AJERSS with 101 points.
I don't think that will be too much value, but hey, that instant heal does actually come into a factor in actual fights. But only 1 stack, I think, is necessary. So many good players, though, in this Punisher, clearly playing a little bit passive. Starving Aiden and Gilly directly underneath him. They've found themselves a cabin that should not have too many people push them. Whereas if you're in Misty Meadows right now, there's a number of players, specifically Nut, who might get on your wall, might knock on the door of one of your houses.
And honestly, if Nut comes knocking, you do not want to answer, because he's just been playing almost like Crackshot, busting in and having no problem putting the pressure on opponents. We saw in particular when they first came onto the scene, they actually we got into a little bit on Twitter, because I had called out. I was like, hey, I don't think Nut and 2xy will end up repeating their performance. They came super close to qualifying and just proving absolutely everyone wrong. They're one of the most consistent duos going through, and 2 controller players who were very much so kind of ahead of that curve of playing hyper aggressive that we saw a bunch of people pioneer after the fact. So to see them flip over to the console side, have a lot of success on that track, and now also flipping back, putting them in the general pool, and seeing the success of these console and mobile players is really impressive. There was a player, RZ Lazen, or YT RZ Lazen, go ahead, give him a shout out on YouTube, who ended up finishing 25th in Europe. 25th out of the top 600 players. That's nuts.
That's very, very good. And very, very good is what Till is going to have to play against Saf, who is one of the original W key lords, but things have changed for Saf, especially in solos. You mentioned it. Not necessarily his favorite game mode, and he's on the outside of zone. This doesn't go too far, but when it does close, it will be a very, very damaging one. And so this fight going in this direction is kind of interesting, but maybe they don't quite care whether they make it out of this alive. Maybe they just want this last elimination until we'll do the perfect window at it to find the corner of Saf and end that one right out. Can he actually make the mad dash in? He has a flopper, but there's still now going to be pressure. Till with 44 HP, it's a 5 tick. He takes time for a mini, and then the flopper. I think he can edge his way in, but he's stuck behind his builds and has to spend a launch pad.
Oof. Can I get some big oof emotes in the chat there? Because that was a little rough on the execution. The tree actually also hindering him there. So just one thing after another, but does get into zone here. You see Aguilar has control over it. TFC, Fuzzy, and Innocence also on the side with Kaz, Clamps, and Punisher lurking around the outside. If you check the bottom right-hand corner, we are in that 4th storm zone. 30 seconds left for it to close, so plenty of time for people to rotate in, and only a few people who need to get inside that white ring of safety. So probably not too many eliminations that are going to be coming out in this turn. So, Baller, I want to ask you, what do you think of Innocence loadout here?
I was talking about how Nut did not want to pick up those floppers, but man, is this a free ride to placement in the end game. Free ride through basically the 7th and 8th zones if he opts to use it, but also some opportunities for some cheeky plays. In 5th or 6th, right now he's pressuring his former teammate. Right next to him is Assault, and you remember their consistent performances throughout the World Cup duos qualifiers. I think probably one of the most consistent duos, but they just did not push their way through to qualify, unfortunately. But they only got better from there. And now, even sinking a little bit, that's funny. Innocence did pressure him. Visuals up on top. We'll see how this goes through. I think they're plenty centered in this next zone.
And you can see now everybody just kind of chilling. That's what we talked about. You can expect not a whole lot of an engagement here until we see the half in, half out. Carson Seat just hanging out on the side. 20 seconds left until that half in, half out reveal. A number of those supply drops are coming down. Again, the guaranteed launch pad can be really critical here, but also launch padding this situation changes based on the density of the lobby. And when we say density, we mean how many players are left in relation to the size of the circle. Right now, if you are the first one to take a launch pad, odds are good you are going to get absolutely destroyed out of the sky unless you're short padding and having a very determined path. What you can see is that reveal comes out right away because Moose is going straight over to the edge of the zone and making sure he boxes himself up as a number of players begin their rotation, signaling like, hey, other people are moving, they didn't get shot, time for me to go, and Carson begins his walk.
And he does, and he gets in. It's a short one. A quick leisurely stroll will get him into zone. One of the first to be here. And he actually finds a fight breaking out for whatever reason right on the edge of players who are basically already in, but box fighting for whatever. Now Kaz does finish off Till, who had the unfortunate launch pad on the side of zone after getting W-keyed by Saf. Carson does not have the highest position, but that's okay. Being on the edge and not that many people near him, and also a kind of breaking line of sight with the mountain and other builds near him, should be okay. Gonna opt to shoot back at this player. Gets a lot of damage done, but probably not enough. And with the hill to the side, there probably won't be too many more people joining the fray in terms of shooting at this player.
Nope, everybody just kind of hanging out, making sure they're not overexposing themselves. They want to make sure they get as many placement points as possible. Again, queues have closed. These will be the final matches for the evening. 10 matches today, 10 matches tomorrow. We'll tally up the scores, and then the top 300 will advance to play next weekend. The bottom 300 and everyone else who is left will be moved into that reboot round where they will have one more chance. That reboot round acting as a last chance qualifier to get into the grand final to fight among the top 100 of the best solo players. And on NA East, you're competing for that $100,000 top prize pool. So not only the bragging rights, but Also a nice little prize pool to go with it as Rogue Shark 35 into 70. Some good tags going through as we move into our top 30 now.
And that 6 zone is going to pull way up north across the lake, causing a little bit of trouble for anybody who does not have the benefit of being higher up or with a launch pad. And you have to actually time these launch pads well so that you don't have to land in the middle of the water. A lot of people who are opting to use it right now are going to run into that issue. Though you can see one arrow going right onto the little island there as we watch Rogue Shark take out Skittles, who was stuck on the backside of this. I'd almost prefer to go by foot if I'm fast, if I'm not going to make it all the way to that island. Rogue Shark does do that though. A little bit of a short pad unintentionally. And he's in zone reloading the RPG. Could cause any trouble. The great thing about RPG on mid-ground is you can kind of force people away from you in really good ways, because instantly they fall and have to go to a layer that they're uncomfortable with, and you get that layer for free.
Getting the layer for free and making sure you have enough room in your uncontested is so important, and that was so absurdly intelligent by Innocence. I'm going to touch on it in a second to make sure he doesn't pick up a second one, but he rotated the ramp so he was phased through it, so the player could not see him, and he was able to fire through, effectively blinding the other player off. We now have our top 20 as Clamps does pick up G-Money, and Innocence got a nice little upgrade there, fixing his health situation, has plenty of floppers, and instantly traps off that opponent and moves up to be on his own layer. We talked about it. That's key and what he wants to look for, as Coop does pick up ZDQW, and we move closer to that top 15.
And the goal for Innocence's win condition is to get into the 7th zone and hopefully have a favorable one with this amount of materials, essentially enough to possibly go for a high ground take later on in zone. He's going to then sit back in the zone, chomp on those floppers, and maybe make a play as he picks up another one. That's 3, and a couple of materials gained from that 2, possibly another one, as there's a player directly on a metal floor but not going to be able to fall down. It was a little bit too built, and this is it. The zone does bounce back. Innocent now with the 7 floppers. He's making the base that he's possibly going to sit in for a while, depending on how others are going to go for from here. For now, he's actually going to expend these, and now looking at height, it doesn't look like it's too high at all. He's going to be able to pressure this off. Yes, it's the grappler, though, up on the hill. That's no longer a possibility, or is it? He goes for it. It's Rogue Shark, and he does cone him off and take it, but no more materials now for Innocence.
He's completely out of builds, but everyone else is going back up the mountain. He says, nah, I don't need to sit in the storm. I don't need these floppers. They're just for show. I'm going to be a sushi chef, just hanging on to the raw fish and going for the dub. But instead now, he's going to get a little cheeky. He's going to sneak into the backside of the storm. He sees the other player, gets a tag onto Darbsy. Furious knows he's there, but... oh, that's almost unfortunate. The storm is going to draw back over him after he reveals himself, putting him in a very awkward situation, but he makes the best of it by dropping down behind Furious. Can Innocence close out the day? 6 elims with the victory royale would be a monstrous game to close out with. 63 points to come through, but Darbsy wants none of it, using the harpoon gun and desperately trying to pressure Innocence out. Innocence wants to get that mini off and wants to try and create space, knowing he has the floppers. He has to bet on the fact that he has more, but Darbsy has the zone control, so he can just start playing the timer. That's 1 flopper down. You can see it right there in the corner, Bala.
Yeah, I'm wondering, though. Darbsy just used all of his materials to kind of wait this out, and only 1 flopper. He's going to go for it because he made that base and kind of made the gamble against Innocence, but he makes it work. The pressure is too much for Innocence as he cannot chomp down on that final.
And sitting above everyone else in that #1 spot is TSM Commandant, aka Commandment, the player for Team Solo Mid. 3 straight victory royales to close out the day. Add into it